Hi, this is Allan McKay. Welcome to episode 136. I'm speaking with Ivo Klaus, one of the effects supervisors at Scanline VFX. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the Allan McKay podcast. Allan is an Emmy Award-winning visual effects artist and mentor to many leading industry experts. Listen in as Allan talks with other industry leaders in film, video games, and visual effects about their experience, lessons, and methodology. Allan will teach you pivotal advice to fast-track your career, better your skills, and reach your ultimate dream job. Check out the latest episodes on allanmckay.com.
Hi everyone, welcome to a new episode. This is going to be killer. I've been looking forward to publishing this episode for quite a while. And this is with Ivo Klaus, who's one of the effects supervisors for Scanline VFX. He's been there for 13 years, and just to list some of the movies that Scanline's worked on, there's everything from Black Panther, Tomb Raider, Justice League, Rampage, Meg, Avengers, Suicide Squad, Rogue One, Transformers, Game of Thrones. I could go on and on and on. Most of the biggest visual effects films that you can think of have all been worked on by the typical studios, Weta, ILM, and Scanline VFX. Ivo's been there for 13 years and obviously influenced and touched on a lot of amazing projects. This is actually a two-part episode, so I wanted to go through this episode first, which is a lot of really great industry advice that Ivo has been able to share. Obviously, having been at Scanline for so long and having a very lengthy career, he's got a lot of really great advice to share with everyone. So I wanted to do this episode first, and then in the next episode we'll be doing, which I believe is episode 143, we'll be going into a lot of the movie work and other things that he's worked on as well. So this episode, we're going to dive into a lot of really great stuff. Before we get started, a couple of things that I wanted to bring up. As I've mentioned, my website is going to be launching very, very soon. And in conjunction with this, one of the things that I haven't mentioned yet that I'm really excited about is I'm going to be launching an official YouTube channel. And so in a way, this is going to be an extension of the podcast. I'm going to be doing a lot of video. I'm going to try and put out weekly, if not daily content as much as possible, getting into a lot of really interesting subjects to do more specifically with career, as well as doing a lot of tutorials, things like that. This has been a long time coming, and I'm really excited about this. It's going to be very, very killer. Now, that doesn't affect the podcast. If anything, it means that some of these podcast episodes I'll be doing will also have video if you want to check them out as well. And if anything, it's going to encourage me to be doing a lot more solo episodes too. So that's an exciting part of this, is that I realized the past year I've done a lot of interviews, and I'm still going to be doing a lot of interviews, but there's also going to be some really cool podcast episodes that are also going to have a lot more solo content too. That being said, there's a lot of really great episodes coming up as well I'm excited about. I'll be able to mention very, very shortly. It seems like there's a lot of feature film directors that are going to be coming on here as well, which is really awesome. Now, finally, the elephant in the room, in case you can't tell, hopefully you can't, but I'm pretty sure you can. I decided in the past week to do something that I've been procrastinating about for over a decade, more like 2 decades. And that is actually to get braces. So it definitely has been something that I've thought a lot about. More specifically because I don't care if I look like I have braces, but for me, doing a lot of speaking, obviously the podcast and a lot of other stuff, sounding like I have braces is definitely something that wasn't high on my list. So this is actually day 1 with braces, and it's hell. Definitely don't do this when you're 35 years old. It's a lot more work and a lot more pain later in life. Do it while you're young. I think it's after 25 years old that getting braces, your bones densify a lot more. So because of that, it takes a lot more work and a lot more time to actually get them adjusted. But I think it's really comical at the moment because I always think of, I think it's Stan's sister in South Park with the braces. That's how I feel like I sound right now. So it's not fun at all, especially doing a lot of video, as well as obviously the podcast and things like that as well. But I'm hoping I'll definitely get a handle on it over time. But right now, I'm definitely going to not enjoy saying stuff like seashells by the seashore or other things that involve a lot of S's. So Yeah, just a heads up in case I do sound a little bit different today, and that is because I have braces. That being said, as I mentioned, the YouTube channel is something that I'm really interested in. I think that that is going to be something really exciting, and it's not too far off. So there's a few things in the works. I wanted to try and time the website and the YouTube channel to come in at the same time, and I have a lot of content planned for that. The other big thing, which I'm getting so much email about, is when is the mentorship opening? So obviously I haven't opened the mentorship for 2018 yet, and it opens one time per year. So the FXTD mentorship is going to be opening later this month. So end of April, I'm hoping to be officially launching that. So I'm going to have a lot more information about that pretty soon. Coincidentally, one thing that's really cool about this episode is that Ivo and I talk in depth about a lot of really great career advice and how to really level up the work that you do. But on top of that, a lot more recently, a lot of people from the FXTD mentorship have been going into Scanline. So I think there's 3 or 4 people globally working specifically in that studio now. Obviously, there's many other people who've gone to ILM, Weta, and other places too. MPC, Framestore, I could go on. So it's pretty exciting to see so many artists going out and doing amazing things. And again, Ivo and I talk a lot about that as well. So it'll be really cool to get into that. I'll be sending more information about the mentorship as we get a little bit closer, but it's not too far off now. That being said, I'm really excited to get into this episode. If you want to check out the show notes, simply go to allanmckay.com/136 and you can read up on all the quotes, key takeaways, links we discuss, and everything else. Finally, there should be a link in there as well, but otherwise, go to allanmckay.com/inside to sign up for the VIP Inner Circle email list, and you'll get notified when the mentorship is officially opening. You'll get early access to that, as well as exclusive video training and courses, tutorials, and other great things that I periodically put out as well. So that being said, let's dive into this episode, because I think that a lot of the audience could, again, get a lot of insight from you as a supervisor. I think that just talking a little bit about maybe the, again, like what you guys look for and things like that, I think would be really valuable. Like I was curious, like having looked at a lot of artist reels, things like that, I always find more information in the disinformation. So in other words, like if someone tells me all the things that, let's say if they're applying for a job, hearing all the things that could get your reel thrown out the door or out the window, to me is way more valuable than like what to do with my reel. And this is something that, for instance, I started looking at this the other day. I was looking at information online about like what people tend to say to do with your reel, and I felt like most of it's wrong anyway. But I felt like I could write more things from a supervisor's perspective of what you should do on your reel, like not do on your reel, than what you should do, because I think it's more about realizing the perspective of the person reviewing your stuff. They're busy, they've got a few things they need, and they got to filter out all the crap to find that. So I was curious, like for you, what are the common things that when you're looking at someone's reel are the big red flags that tend to come up a lot, that you decide, okay, yeah, this person isn't a good fit? Like what are the common things that they keep doing over and over?
Yeah, for one thing, I mean, obviously the reel is really important. If you manage to get a reel and demonstrate that you can do live action integration and you can do that at a high level, for me, it's sufficient to show 1, 2, or 3 examples of this to illustrate the fact that you managed to do it. And I get a lot of reels where people fill up some empty spots with fume tests on black, and that's a really common thing. And also like dynamic braking structures on black or in a GI lit environment, that kind of
ambient
stuff,
occlusion passes.
yeah, that kind of stuff demonstrates to me that person does not know the entire workflow and is just playing with it. So that's something. I mean, if the same person has some nice shots with really good live action integration in there, it's fine. But it will definitely affect how I think about it, because that will demonstrate it will at least demonstrate that you didn't think enough about why you're putting these in there. So it isn't because isn't to illustrate that you know Fume, because doing a Fume sim on black, well, it's almost impossible to make it look bad.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't realize this, you might need a bit more training or insight. So that's something to get out of the way just right at the start.
Yeah, no, I think it's
And
great
then
advice.
most of the time I don't even have sound support properly on my machine most of the time.
Yep.
So putting music under your reel is probably satisfying on a personal level, but entirely unnecessary for myself.
It really bothers me. I'll just jump in and say when you see someone who's like, I spent all day yesterday trying to find the perfect track for my reel and I nailed it. I got it.
Yeah.
It's just like, man, like you
aren't
Yeah.
applying as a music artist. So,
That's right.
yeah. So that's some. Also, I think there is not enough. So a CV is really necessary to at least show that what you've been doing before you've been applying to this position. So I look at the reel, then I look at the CV and maybe an accompanying letter.
Mm-hmm.
And
References go such a far away.
yeah, references are good. It's also good if you have previous feature film experience, obviously, because it shows you've been working in a pipeline and you're aware of the workflow. It's a bit harder to, and that's no one's particular fault, but if you are cross transitioning from a different job into FX, and sometimes that is a bit dangerous, so you need to be aware of how you present yourself. So let's say, for example, you've been doing a different job before, and then you decided to go university to study something, and then you decided to study something else, and then you finally decided FX is going to be what you always wanted to do. Then that's going to sound a bit like you could decide in another year that like being
Ice cream.
a kindergarten teacher is now your
Exactly.
your
Or a
goal.
DJ.
Yeah, exactly.
Your reel had such great music taste.
Exactly. So that's something just to be aware of, because I mean, you could pick that up in your letter, that you're aware that you've been jumping around a lot and that you've only been doing this to get to the right position.
Sorry, I gotta jump in there because I think that's great. Like, one thing I've talked extensively about is your cover letter, and it's for a very good reason because everything that you talk about there, I think, really hits the underlying message that the more information, the more you put on your reel, the more. Actually, yeah, just even saying that, the more that you put on your reel are more things to disqualify you from getting the job. And less is always more, quality over quantity. And, the more that you're disclosing about yourself, it brings up more questions about yourself. But that's just it. Like, the worst part of all with sending in your work is that you're not there to defend yourself. You're not there to answer questions. So if you have a shot on your reel that someone else has on their reel, but you don't clarify that what your contributions were, it mightn't be like you're not trying to steal their work, but because you're not there to explain yourself, it's very easy for someone to be like, okay, well, they must have stolen that shot, next person, and move on. Like all these things, like can happen, that you need to think ahead and really think of like all the contingencies. So your cover letter, and that's exactly like what you're saying is your cover letter is a perfect chance for you to diffuse or to kind of touch on any of the things that you think might be an issue. And I think that's really critical.
Traditionally, I also know that nowadays FX artists, they like to travel a lot. And especially in Europe, there are a lot of companies that will just swap out FX artists from one side to the other. But we are looking for people who will stay with us for a little longer.
Right.
So if we see that person kind of switches companies after every project, I'm a bit worried that he will not be able to work with us for a bit longer. So I don't mind if people don't want to stay with us forever. That's never going to happen. But if somebody's going to work with us, he needs to learn Flowline, and that's an investment from our side, and it's an investment from the artist's side. And to take really advantage of this investment, I think staying for 1 year only is not enough. So ideally, I always like to get a couple of projects done with the same people, if possible. Obviously, that is something that is unique to, I think, Scanline, because We need people to learn Flowline, and that is an investment that takes a few months. I mean, that still means people come in and we get them an introduction and they can start working within 1 or 2 weeks. So that's not an issue, but it's still an investment.
That's right.
And depending on the place where you apply, this can be a bonus or seen as you say, questionable, or at least not questionable as such, but it needs a bit of explanation maybe, right? And as you say, if you're not there to defend yourself, maybe you can think ahead and say, okay, for example, well, I've worked at all these places and I've got all these contacts that can confirm that working with me was a blast. So that's, as you said, for example, if you have a reference, especially because the industry is small and some people will always know the other people. And while asking other people about specific people is not something that I ever did, it's still something that spreads around a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So,
And go ahead, sorry.
Also, the cover letter is something where a person can show that he thought about it. So I get that oftentimes where I have somebody applying for a position and he would send a CV and a reel, and his email would essentially say, oh yeah, I heard you have a free position, I would apply for it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something where I'm thinking, well, cool, but maybe you could have at least tried to show a bit more interest. Like, I don't know that person, and all you get is a snippet of a sentence, a reel, and a CV. And even if you're an industry veteran, if I don't know you, if that's all you can go by, it's like, oh, this is a bit
That's the level of effort that you're going to put in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, whatever, hire me if you want.
Mm-hmm. I'm that good. But no, I collect every job application gets sent in to me, because the good ones is some that, like, I'm really busy, I can't reply to everyone's emails, but when there's someone who wrote a really good email, I'll always respond, because it's so rare. And I collect all the bad ones, because I've had companies CC, I've had like certain people like CC every company like 20, 30.
No, you can't. Like if in an email to a company, you have the CC to other companies.
I want to reply all. Like, I honestly want to be like, hey, is anyone else getting a real lack of a... But that's just it. Like, it says so much, like, when you're not willing to put in the effort. And I also think that your cover letter sets the tone of everything. And for me to look at your reel, like, I'm probably, if you don't put in the effort, I'm probably not going to look at your reel. And like if you're able to write a letter and you're able to, like, especially in the first 2 lines of your email, summarize who you are and everything about you, and then continue down the page. Like, it's able to say, hey, this is essentially what I'm about to talk about. And that way you capture their attention, and then you can start going more in depth, because, the more you think about the person who's looking at your work and what they're going through on that day, how busy they are. If they're managing all these people, an entire department, they're very busy. And that's where, like I said, with Stefan, like, it was such a great piece of information there that I'd never thought about in a million years, about how having a lot of experience could actually be a negative if you weren't able to shed light on it. But that's just where with every job application, I think it's so critical that you do think about all the things going on. Someone's not necessarily looking at your reel because you sent it in. It's probably a big spreadsheet of reels, and they've got to hire 2 people, and they've got to go through 100 reels, and they've got a dozen other things they've got to deal with. So, the minute that you put on I actually did a portfolio review with my mentorship about a week ago, and the number one thing I kept saying is pull out the explosion on black. Your whole reel is amazing. Pull that one shot out. Yeah, exactly. And I saw one reel as a guy in Vancouver, amazing work, and there's that one shot in there, and I know why he did it. It's because I think he wants to get pyro work, and so he didn't have any pyro experience, so he wanted to show he can do it, and I totally get it, but you got to take it out, because all it takes is that, like, I'll step back and say the one thing that you don't want to do is someone to be watching a reel and then a certain shot comes up, and then that makes them stop and, like, look for the resume to check, like, are they a student? Like, why are they showing me that shot? Like, because in that one moment, your hourly rate or your day rate probably went down like a notch just because that one shot. Now you're not at the level you were before.
Yeah.
Whereas showing just a couple of shots, it's better for them to come back saying, I want to see more if necessary, rather than feeling they saw too much and then like walking away.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I would also like to say that at the end of the day, it's not like if you don't get approval on your first try, you shouldn't get deterred. I mean, usually it's not. We usually hire when necessary, which again means we need to have enough project work or certain circumstances that we need to hire people. So what we usually do is we review people or get into contact with people, and if we can't have a position right now, we will keep them in our roster and we will contact them and or get back into contact as soon as we can hire people. So it's also a bit of a patience game, I would say, that if you are willing to be persistent enough in a certain direction, I think you have a good chance of landing where you want to go eventually. It's just I know that as if you're starting out, you don't have a very long patience, or you can't be that patient because you need to be out there. You need to be earning money. But still, if you have the opportunity, patience is also a good, I think, tip. I mean, the kind of patience where you occasionally ask or get back to them, because again, as you said, the main thing we do is project work. And that is, if it comes down to that, if project work gets really busy, that's the base level. That's what we do. Then we have to get that out of the way to get to looking at resumes, to kind of looking at meetings with artists or meetings in the company, kicking off internal projects. But the base level is, if project work becomes too busy, there's almost like a lockdown, and that can last anything between a week or a couple of months. So during that time, it can well be that people won't get contacted, or we'll just say, oh, currently we cannot take over a person. But we will definitely keep the people that we think are worthy and get into contact as soon as we can.
That's great. That's really good advice. And one thing I had to ask about, I know that there's a bunch of people from my mentorship at Scanline, which I think is freaking awesome that you guys have had a lot of success with that. I was just curious, like, what your experience has been so far. Like, do you find like a lot of people coming in from having done that training have been really valuable in terms of, having the core understandings before they come in about integrating with CG and live action, the technical stuff, all that sort of thing?
Yeah, so it's definitely made an impact that you have that. It's interesting that you've kicked off that FXTD course, and you've been doing this for how long now?
I think 22 years, something like that. Quite a while now. I decided not to have a child. Childhood. The mentorship's about 3 years, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And during that time, I saw a rise in reels where I mean, obviously, I don't know which people took the course, but because you have certain material in your courses, reels pop up with those materials. And we've got occasional applications from people that did the course, and recently 2 of those people joined us. And at the moment, I have good experiences. The good thing is, as I said, I mean, the good thing is your FXTD course is catering to, well, mainly, but I think you're also playing it into Houdini-esque ranges if people really want to. But it's awesome for us, definitely. That's what I think, that you're doing it with 3ds Max, because there are things in 3ds Max that, I mean, obviously I'm very used to Max, and I'm not as used to Houdini, for example, as with Max, but there are things with Max that we can do that that you can do in other software packages, but we are very comfortable there. So it's really cool to have a kind of course out there that caters to our needs in that respect. And I could see that there are more live action integration reels out there now. And there is also something where I think it's the course is doing exactly the right thing.
Mhm.
You just have to be careful as an artist to show only the coursework, because the individual touch is something that you will need to sell yourself on to as well.
Yeah.
Because if you are integrating something into a live action shot, that is a piece of work, and it will illustrate that you understood the whole message of how it works in the workflow, in the pipeline. And then you also need to demonstrate that you can be creative and thinking about something that you've built yourself. And I've seen
Yeah.
that come out of some of those artists that have gone through your course. So that's really awesome. If people can demonstrate that, and since they use 3ds Max, which we are using mainly for FX work, well, mainly it's like 90%.
hmm
That is really, then you already have one big thing to show. You can use the tools that we use in-house, so we don't need to teach them to you. And that's really worth a lot. So if you want to work with a certain company and you know they're using a certain tool, then get to know it, and it will help you immensely.
No, that's really great, and I appreciate your insights on that. I mean, for me, like I definitely have thought about it more from the perspective of what do you need to go into the industry, and I feel like like I said before, I think that the toughest thing when going to a studio is that they're gambling on you. If you don't have previous production experience, then
Yeah.
they are basically saying, well, I've seen your explosions on black, but that doesn't mean that you can finish a shot.
Yeah.
And I wanted to kind of really focus on it being about being able to do a shot from start all the way to finish.
Yeah. So, for example,
mhm.
one of your pupils was showing a reel that had 3 shots in there,
Mhm.
and it was live action plus full CG, and it was using a wide range of software packages to achieve it, and it was from tracking to comp integration and everything. So that was really good, and that person didn't have any prior industry experience.
Mhm.
So that was, in a way, that is impressive if a person can do that, even though he didn't work in the industry before.
Right. Yeah. No, I think it's really vital, and you are right though. Like I always encourage people to shoot their own stuff if they can. Obviously, I go out, we shoot everything on the red Epic W with the helium sensor, so it's all the same stuff that Michael Bay would be shooting Transformers with. In fact, it is the exact same camera, and
Uh-huh.
but at the same time, like I think
Yeah.
that when you do your shot yourself, like you do your own individual shot, it becomes like you run into way more problems than if you're doing a specific tutorial. So I always think that taking ownership of a shot is going to give you that extra growth.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think also giving that material to somebody is also worth a lot, because it illustrates what happens in the industry. I mean,
Yeah.
we are doing post-production, so we are not really producing the film material. So at one point we get a turnover and we get the plates, and we have to deal with the plates. And that's
hmm
usually the starting point.
Exactly. And yeah, you do the whole shot turnover at the beginning, and supervisor discusses like this is what we want to do, and you go through a real production pipeline. So yeah, no, I think it's awesome to hear.
Exactly. And if you can train on good material, that will prepare you better. That's obvious. Yeah.
That's great. Is there any lasting bits of advice you might want to give to people listening that want to do what you do one day?
I think they should, if somebody's thinking about joining Scanline, they should definitely go out there, create a reel, think about a nice CV, and contact us. We usually go that extra length and try to establish a Skype call or something similar where we can get to know each other. And also, very important, we can only work in an English environment. I know there are a lot of artists out there who are struggling a bit with the English language, but that's really vital as well, because there are only so many languages that this industry speaks. And
Yep.
I mean, we have no problem with any English speaking application, but we do need to communicate, and on a good level. So if you as an artist are aware that your English isn't perfect, that's also something that definitely you can easily work on.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important too. So I mean, yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
But
Cool, man.
apart from that, if you have a reel with good live action integration of FX work, that's awesome. And then if you have on top of that a nice cover letter, then that goes the extra mile.
That's great, man. And I hope everyone pays attention to that because, yeah, I think that's really, really critical advice. Cool, man. Well, I'll leave it there. I'll let you get some rest. But again, thanks for everything.
No, thank you for the opportunity, and good luck with the FXTD course this year. I'm
That's
sure
great, man.
lots of people are applying.
Okay, so I want to thank Ivo for taking the time out to chat. This was a really great time getting to catch up and talk about a lot of the really great advice that he's sharing. Man, I gotta get used to these braces. Okay, so that being said, I'm going to be putting out another episode with him, episode 143, which will be going through a lot of the work that Scanline's done, going a bit behind the scenes on their process, and more importantly, a lot of the work that Ivo's done and a lot of insights, a lot of the challenges and realizations he's had working in this industry for over a decade. I think this is going to be really exciting just to get his thoughts, his insights, and a lot of the knowledge that he's willing to share. Now, next episode I'm going to be putting out, I'll be actually talking about demo reels. So this is going to be something that I think is going to be a lot of fun. I have talked about the subject before. However, I'm working on a new guide at the moment, specifically around all the critical things that you can do to really maximize the attention on your demo reel. Also understanding a lot of how critical it is, whether or not it lands you the job, how to make your reel go viral, and so much more. So this is going to be really fun to get into, and that will be coming up next episode. Lots of other cool stuff coming, lots of really cool announcements, but for now, if you want to check out the show notes again, go to allanmckay.com/136, and make sure to sign up to the email list so you can get notified when the registration for the mentorship opens. Okay, that is it for now. Until then, rock on.